Hi, this is your host, and welcome to Paleologic, the series where we cover all things ancient. Today we're talking about the biggest shark that ever lived. For some real-world context here, great white sharks average around 4.5 meters in length and weigh just over 2,000 pounds, or about a ton. So this prehistoric shark was more than double the length, and almost 50 times heavier than today's great whites. And if you know anything about sharks, then you probably already know what I'm talking about. The Megalodon, it went extinct about 3 million years ago. But did you know that it actually lived at the same time as our earliest human ancestors? Yeah, it turns out that humans and Megalodons may have coexisted for hundreds of thousands of years. It is estimated that the Megalodon grew to lengths of over 20 meters and weighed upwards of 100 tons. There was nothing that they couldn't eat. Now obviously, this doesn't mean that they were swimming around in the same oceans as modern humans. Could you imagine the Megalodon as like a No. It's too much. So it's not that far of a stretch to think that they may have seen one another. Humans are largely a coastal dwelling species, and so it's unlikely that we would have ever encountered a Megalodon because they preferred deeper, open ocean waters. I am convinced that if we had found a single site with both Megalodon remains and human remains, that we would have known about it. Like, that would be huge. I am a paleontologist and science communicator based here in Toronto, Canada. They're incredibly well adapted for life in the water. So I like to imagine that the Megalodon was probably a beautiful, graceful creature, even though it was huge. If you enjoyed this episode and you haven't already subscribed, please do, and we will see you next time for more prehistoric fun. Bye. And this idea that humans and may have lived at the same time has been keeping me up at night. So let me explain. Like, we could have been in the water at the same time. It's too much for me. Do you think that humans and Megalodons ever saw each other? Let me know down in the comments below. And we haven't. I've checked, and even though they are popularly depicted in movies and TV shows as monstrous, like in The Meg for example, they were just trying to survive just like us. And honestly, they were probably pretty graceful. Megalodon means big tooth. Hi, again, I'm one of the hosts. Hi, welcome to my channel. We know from the fossil record that the Megalodon first appeared sometime in the early Miocene epoch, somewhere around 23 million years ago. They were found all over the world, literally from the poles to the tropics. So this was a globally distributed species, but new data suggests that they may have survived a little bit longer than that. Based on the size of their teeth and other physical characteristics of the skeleton, like the vertebrae, we can tell that they were apex predators, meaning they were at the top of the food chain, and by using more precise dating techniques, they found that some of these specimens were actually younger than previously thought. In fact, they suggested that the Megalodon may have survived into the Pliocene, which lasted from about 5 to 2.6 million years ago. Now, until recently, we thought that the Megalodon went extinct about 3 million years ago, right at the beginning of the Pleistocene. In 2020, a study was published that re-examined the age of some of these fossils. So this means that Megalodons could have potentially lived alongside early humans. But there is potential that Megalodons could have inhabited some of the same shallow coastal waters that early humans were living in. Even though we don't have any direct evidence for Megalodons and humans coexisting, we do have evidence that they lived in the same general time and in the same general place. Like I said, this idea keeps me up at night. The Megalodon is such an iconic prehistoric creature that I feel like if we had found those remains together, we would have known about it. So I think that this idea of them potentially coexisting is really exciting. Megalodons are truly fascinating creatures. Sharks today come in all shapes and sizes, but they all share a common body plan that has remained basically unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. So what do you think? Thank you so much for joining me this week for Paleologic.